Hi, I'm Veronica Monet. You are in the Shame-Free Zone, and I don't have a guest today. I have somebody who's going to interview me for his forthcoming book. His name is Nigel Brown, and I'm going to let him tell you a little bit about himself. Now, Nigel, welcome to the Shame-Free Zone.
Thank you. Thank you, Veronica. Thanks for having me here. Thanks for agreeing to an awesome and hopefully very impactful interview coming up. Um,
Help.
let's see how we go. Um, yeah, talking about myself, I'm just a guy, normal, average, everyday guy who's writing a book about his experiences in life.
You're lying. You're lying. You work with energy. Um, you're
I
something of a
do.
healer.
I am a little bit of a healer. I've I've been through a road as most healers have. They've been through some dark times and come out the other side.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think for me, the biggest part where my idea for my book has come from is that there's so many things that I tried that other people told me worked really well for them.
Yeah.
And when I tried them, they weren't appropriate for me. They didn't work for me. So I
Ah,
tried well, not thousands. I tried many things, like nearly 100 different modalities and different things.
mm,
And not a single one of them was perfect,
yeah.
but a few of them added together really helped to transform my life. And so
Mm.
I think my book is about showing people that there is more than one way
Oh
and
boy, do we need that
exploring,
today, huh? People
yeah,
really need, yeah, there's so many paths. It's great.
yeah, and that you don't have to be stuck down one path. And even if you like a path for a while, there might be something else that's better at a different time in your life. So
Absolutely.
that's the
Yeah.
genesis of my book. Um,
And is
yeah,
this
I've
going to
been,
be your first book?
this is going to be my first book. So it's going to
Congratulations.
be very interesting. Every
Yeah.
time I think of a new part, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's starting to get daunting, but that's half the fun.
I like to say, because I'm an author, and I say I don't write books, they write me.
Oh, yeah, I feel like this one
Yeah.
is writing me a little bit as I'm researching. I'm learning more
Yeah.
and more about myself. So it's like I'm going through these processes over and over again in different ways at a different time. It's like I go through something and it's like a release of a new part of me that I didn't even
Yeah.
realize was there. So it's a really fun
Yeah.
process for me so far.
Yeah.
Daunting but fun.
Daunting but fun. Oh, I totally relate to that. You were originally from Australia,
I am originally from Australia.
and now
I,
you're residing in Brazil.
I am residing in Brazil. I came over to work with a friend of mine who we've known each other since high school.
Oh, wow.
He's in the energy healing space as well. And we've come over to do a bit of work together. So we're working on some programs and things that will be coming out sometime this year.
Yeah.
And yeah, so just part of my life and my change is moving country altogether, going somewhere where I don't know the language, and I still
Yeah.
suck at learning the language, but that's okay. That's part of the process too.
I always like to
And
say, muy poquito español.
oh, yes, it's Portuguese over here, so that's even trickier. I
Oh
knew a little
no, I'm
tiny bit of
sorry.
Spanish,
Oh
but
wow, I sure hit,
over here,
I missed the mark on that one. Okay, so nobody in Brazil speaks Spanish.
there's people in Brazil that speak Spanish, but everybody
Like
speaks Portuguese.
like in,
Some speak
oh
Spanish.
wow. Wow. Okay. Out of my league. So I am going to turn this interview over to you now and let
Excellent.
you
I'm probably better at that part, so
and
that's
let
good.
you have your way with me. So go for it.
Oh, such a wonderful comment.
What's the shade for
I'm gonna
yourself? I like to be playful.
exactly. Well, speaking of that,
Yeah.
I've done a little bit of research on you, but I'd love for you to tell me a little bit about your origins to starting the shame-free zone. Like, what inspired you to create it?
Yes, and that is something you don't actually find online. Um, my origin story, although I just wrote a book about it and it'll come out soon. So I was raised in a super religious environment. One of my grandmothers was a Mormon. The other one was Pentecostal Assembly of God. And my mother belonged to a Christian cult. It was a doomsday cult. So everything's fire, brimstone. They didn't
Wow.
believe in hell, but they believed in Armageddon and the end of the world, and really, really strict and repressive. And the message that I got from all three of these monotheistic religions was that sex was really shameful. Um, and the exception to that, ironically enough, came from my mother, because when I learned about sex, I was 9 years old. And I asked my mom, I go, what are orgasms like? And she goes, oh, honey, it's God's way of letting you know what's waiting for you in heaven, which I thought was so sweet.
That is a beautiful thing to say.
Yeah, and it was the most sex positive message that I got growing up. We weren't supposed to, and the same mother told me, don't touch down there, and save your kisses for your husband. And oh, it was a time when women were just getting abortion rights. They were just getting the right to prosecute their husband if they raped them. We were just starting to talk about domestic violence. And I felt ready to join the revolution. But unfortunately, I was too young. And when I got to college, everybody was getting MBAs and to become business majors. So I was a generation too late for that. But I still wanted to rebel because it's all this strict repression. And I ended up volunteering for a center against rape and domestic violence. And there were a bunch of aging hippies that I got to hang out with. It seemed like the only people who still cared about political activism, and that really called to me. And some of the things that I learned through that was this. I learned to identify the secrets of my own family, my own origin story. So there was rampant incest, child sexual assault on both sides of the family. My grandmother, maternal grandmother, had been molested by her father, who then turned around and molested my mother. Um, and then on my dad's side of the family, there was an older brother. So there's like 11 children, and he's 20 years older than all the siblings. And he basically raped all of them. And this kind of spread in the family um, culture. So there was a lot of incest going on between all the siblings. And my dad found it abhorrent. He was really, really opposed to his older brother's behavior. But the
Mhm.
family kept a lot of secrecy. So they're going to church, they're having all of these come to Jesus moments, and they're molesting their kids. Lots of hypocrisy. So that's,
Wow.
I got exposed to that. And one of the things that I came to know was that the sexual shame actually fostered an secretive environment where it was easier to abuse children.
Yeah.
And under the cover of religious devotion. And, when I was 12, I was wanting very much to have a spiritual experience. I read the Bible from cover to cover, and I felt nauseous when I got to the end of the big book. And I couldn't understand why, because I thought all Christians love the Bible, and I'm going to have this amazing moment of clarity and feeling close to my creator. And it couldn't have been more opposite of that. In college, I started kind of unpacking, well, what was actually in that book? And there was a lot of slavery, misogyny, rape, genocide, and a lot of whorephobia. A lot of talk of killing the great whore of Babylon. And I was like, oh, that probably has something to do with the feelings of nausea. So it's really the religious roots of my childhood that caused me to see how the shaming that is so indicative of those dogmas had
Mm,
deformed both sides of my family and set us up for what I would call legacy burdens. So ancestral wounding, because
yeah,
if you go back before the perpetrators that were closest to me, there were other perpetrators. It just goes out and out and out. And
yeah,
all under the veil of secrecy and religious purity.
yeah.
So
It's
anyway, kind of a
that.
long-winded answer, Nigel, but that's
No, that's really powerful. Like
yeah.
it's totally the opposite way to which I grew up because I didn't grow up in any religious aspect at all.
Wow.
So I've got a very different point of view on that. But yeah, I can
Yeah.
totally see where that secrecy and the whole shame build up can just turn into this monster, for want of a better word.
I
And
don't. So, I've heard a lot of religious people talk about money is the root of all evil. And I have a rebuttal to that, which is religion is the root of all evil. And I know that that's offensive to a lot of people, but fewer and fewer people, because there's more and more people that are saying they're not affiliated with any religion. And I think we can be spiritual. I actually don't think we can't be spiritual. I think we are all spiritual
yeah,
beings having an experience of being in a human body. Um, and prayer is a daily part of my life, but I can't stand the Bible. I'm not a Christian or a
hmm,
Muslim or a Jew. I don't belong to any religion, nor do I
hmm,
want to. And books are what people write. I'm an author. I love to read books, but you know, I take what I can use and throw away the rest. And there's, one of my favorite philosophers is actually an atheist. Um, Yuval Noah Harari. He wrote
yes,
*Sapiens*. And one of the things that I like about what he says is that we can't update the books. When you get
no,
entrenched with that, okay, they wrote it, but now we don't get to update it. So we just keep carrying the same message forward, and it's lost its relevance. And
we see it through different cultural eyes.
yeah, so people are so like trying to say, well, it didn't mean that, it meant this. And I'm kind of like, no, actually, the jihadists and the Christian crusaders had one advantage over modern adherents to the Bible and the Quran. They read. Because if you actually read these books, they're pretty abysmal. But people don't. They don't. They'll pick a little verse that they like or a little, hymn, and then, oh, that's the whole book. No, it's not. Um, yeah. So anyway, I don't need to go on and on about that, Nigel, unless you want me
It
to.
is it is a really interesting topic though, because I totally understand what you're saying. I'm not religious in any way, shape, or form,
Yeah.
but I can still take value from the different religions. There's aspects to each of them that are really insightful, and a lot of them have stayed around for a long time because the messaging some of the messaging can be really good, and
Hmm.
depending on where you're at, you might take a small bit of this and a small bit of that. But
Yeah.
it's when humans get involved and try and use it as a way to control other humans, that's when it kind of loses it takes away that's when the religion starts to become a problem in my eyes anyway. But as soon
Mm,
as it's a case of people are using it as an instrument for control and
yeah.
not an instrument for exploration, that's when it turns and becomes something other. But there's still
Yeah.
value in some of what religion tries to tell us, but we've got to pick and choose the parts that we hold dear individually, the parts that resonate with us, is how I would look at it.
I hear you. It's different than how I look at it. I actually would like people to spend more time having their own authentic experiences, um, and use what other human beings have written maybe as a catalyst for getting in touch with their own authentic experiences. You
Mm.
know, when I'm writing, what I'm hoping I'm doing is helping people get in touch with the parts of themselves that disagree with me, the parts of them that identify with me. Um, I'm, I think we don't, most of us have been taught to just take stuff in. And particularly now in this cultural moment, and I cannot claim any purity here because I'm a little addicted to my Instagram feed. Um,
Shh, secret. Don't break it.
yeah. But we're just like taking stuff in, taking stuff in, taking stuff in.
Mm.
And if we're not educated to what it is we're watching, like, I've really been trying to become more adept at spotting AI, because I can see a phenomenal video and be, just, oh my God, I can't believe this person did this acrobatic thing, or I can't believe that animal did this thing. And there are lots of amazing, crazy things that happen. But then there's
Yes.
also the AI produced ones, which are just completely phony.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
It takes away from everything else. It
Yeah.
moves
So
you.
how do we be discerning, like how, and to me that goes into like even our relationship with ourself. So
Yeah.
early on when I was developing my own intuition and my own empathic psychic awareness, um it would get more confusing than it is now. It's still confusing at times, but in the beginning,
I'm
it
glad
would
you're
be
convinced
like,
as well.
oh no, I'm sure. And then it's like, no, I was wrong. And and then there's been other times I've been like, nah, never mind. And I pay a big price for it. Like 6 months ago, I got up
Mhm.
to go take a simple walk with a friend. Now I lift weights, I do yoga, I I hike. I've hiked portions of the Pacific Crest Trail. I'm just taking a walk. It's not a complicated thing here. And I was deciding which pair of shoes to wear, and a voice told me, those shoes don't have enough tread. You need to replace them. And I was really dismissive. And I said, okay, I'll order a new pair when I get home, but these go with the outfit. I broke my kneecap. So
Oh my God.
so the more I am connected to spirit and the energy, the more is required of me to pay
Yes.
to pay attention, to listen. And I feel like that is such a rich plane that at least so many of the people that I work with, even as a coach, but also friends. I feel like when they get attached to a particular spiritual book, and I'm putting spiritual in quotes because so much of it to me feels really banal and almost catering to lower vibrations, lower energies, that they're
Hmm.
just missing that journey. They're not getting to take that journey of learning how to fly on their own power.
Yeah. And that's an
Yeah.
important journey.
Yeah.
I could not agree with that any more than, yeah.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's what we believe has to come from us, but we can experience what we do and don't like a little bit by trying things out that other people have said, if that makes
Okay.
sense.
You're going to find I'm a bit of a contrarian. So you used a word I
Oh, I
don't
love it.
like. Okay. Believe. So I have a favorite saying, and I suppose this is the one belief I will indulge, which is beliefs are dangerous. And that's
Hmm.
because I saw so many grown-ups in my childhood arguing about their beliefs. And my grandmothers and my parents would get together and argue about what a particular Bible verse meant. Um, Jesus turned it into wine. That means we get to drink. No, you do not. It says drunkenness is a sin. Well, you don't have to drink till you get drunk. No, it was grape juice. And I was like 9 years old, and I go, didn't they say that their religions were about love? Why is there so much hate going on here? So that's just where I'm coming from initially, is that awareness as a child. But I think, when I first got sober, which was in 1985, I was young, and I'd already played out my alcoholism and drug addiction, and it was the end of the road for me. I had to get sober. And I was experimenting with all different kinds of beliefs. Like, my concept of a higher power, is it God? Is it Goddess? And at one point it was kind of like, oh, it's a hermaphrodite. No, it's a group, it's a constellation, a group of wise energies. And eventually I got to a point where I was like, it's all belief. I can't prove or disprove any of that. So how about I just stop trying? And what would it be like if I just tune in to my experience, which is I feel a certain way when I pray. I feel a certain way when I meditate. When I affirm certain things happen. When I work with certain energies, certain things happen. When I work with other energies, something else happens. And what does that mean? I can form temporary constructs about, okay, I think that feels like a guide, and that feels like somebody else's guide. That's my guide, and that's my higher power. In the end, though, I don't actually have a belief because I don't know. What I know is that it's working, and I used to live a life on drugs and alcohol and self-will run riot. That was a disaster. That's really all I know.
So it sounds to me like you live in presence as much as anything else. That's where you keep yourself.
And curiosity, right? So just be curious. Like, how am I going to learn if I have a belief? To me, it's like free myself from my beliefs and stay open. This is why I call atheism a religion, because it has a
Yeah,
belief system.
totally.
And it's a very, very rigid belief system. And boy, you don't want to mess with it. And for me,
Yeah,
I'm just like, well, that feels like I'm talking to a Mormon. I'm sorry, but it all feels the same to me.
yeah. No,
Agnostics are much more interesting to me because they're like, I don't know.
I can't prove it one way or another. It might be this, it might be that. We don't know.
Yeah,
So
no, what?
it's a much more interesting dynamic to live in because your curiosity will take you wherever it takes you.
And it's
So,
scary. It's scary. I understand why people want to have a belief because then it's something they can solidly attach to. And look, I believe there's life after this life, or existence or something, whatever you want to call it. But I base it on an experience. So I've had an experience of talking
mhm.
to dead people. That's my experience. And some of it's pretty darn tangible, you know?
Well, yeah, that when we have those powerful experiences, they will create beliefs in ourselves.
Uh,
Whether we
yeah,
hold on to them or not is
well, the
different. But
thing is, like, try to keep it. So I explored other things like, okay, you've had this experience. What else could explain it? And so I read a lot of books, and years ago, I read one called Fire in the Brain. It had an explanation for all near-death experiences and all paranormal experiences. And it was all about the chemicals in the brain and how the
mhm.
brain's trying to, cope with the expiration of itself. And okay, I entertained those assertions. And I always have that kind of in the back of my mind, checking my experiences like, okay, does that check out? And, when you have some really ridiculously obvious psychic experiences, you can't explain it away by the chemicals in your brain. I'm thinking you probably know what I'm talking about.
I have an inkling of what you're talking about. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. You play those cards close to your chest, Nigel.
It's more. I haven't had as many really out there experiences as a lot of other people. So I've had some
Oh,
experiences, but mine are when I hear other people talk and like it's
yeah. Yeah.
mine's more at a lower level. Generic. I'm more of a thinking soul, and
Ah,
I've learned to feel as I've grown older.
yeah. Right.
Mm. So
Right.
I've learned to understand my heart and my feelings and all of what is beyond just rational thought as I've gotten older.
Ah,
So I'm
yeah.
coming at life from probably a different point of view to a lot of other people,
Yeah.
where we're all still
Or,
everything, but
or at
we
least
have
a different point of view.
tendencies.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So I've been
yeah,
I've been ad-libbing it here, and I'm aware of the fact that you have more questions for me. So
I have a few more questions, but ad libbing's fine. We're just shooting it. It's all good.
yeah.
At least we've answered the first question, so that's good.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm verbose if I'm nothing else.
Therefore, you are a perfect person for me to be inquiring of. I love it. Um, all right. So, in my little bit of research about yourself, it came up that you might be a bit of an anger specialist. Is that correct?
Mhm.
How do you view the role of anger in personal healing, especially around relationships?
Yeah. Yeah.
And is it always something that you need to work around, or can anger be a constructive thing?
Yeah. Great question. Oh, anger can be very constructive. And I say that as somebody who had huge anger management issues. Um, I was an angry, violent drunk. And when I got clean and sober, I continued to be angry. And I was trying not to be violent, but I indulged a lot of road rage. So, I mean, literally, tried to run somebody off the road because a board fell out of the back of their truck and hit the hood
Whoa.
of my car. Didn't even
Okay.
scratch the paint or dent it, but oh, I was so upset and so insulted. And so I chased after them and I kind of went into their lane and let them know you better pull over or else. And they did. They pulled over and I got out and they got out and there's two of them. There's two guys and me. And I am a size 2. So I'm looking at them. They're looking at me kind of like, what, you think we're going to throw down with you? Because we're not. And I'm like going, oh shit, I'm in the wrong body. And I got back into my car with my tail between my legs and drove away and thought, you're going to get yourself killed one of these days. I think you need help. So,
Yep.
so yeah. And I've done the domestic violence dance for several years. I was the victim. And then
Mm.
for several years, I was the perpetrator. I don't ever coach my clients to anything that I haven't actually healed in myself. It's just one of my roles. And fortunately for my clients, I have had to heal almost everything. So means I get to coach a lot of things.
Perfect.
Yes. So I take anger management very, very seriously. The stakes were incredibly high for me, life and death. And I work with clients who sometimes are in very dire situations, domestic violence situations. I usually don't want their domestic violence dynamic to be as serious as some of the ones I've been involved in. But I did work with a couple for several years who were routinely coming to my office with bruises and cuts. And we were able to move away from that.
That's
So
awesome.
it was a combination of my training as a domestic violence counselor in college
Hmm.
and also my own healing around that, which transpired over several years. And the fact that I'm certified in anger management. I bring all of that together. And what I tell my clients is that your anger is sacred. It's a beautiful emotion. You don't want to act on it. So you use it kind of like, excuse me, like a car alarm or a fire alarm. You would
Yep.
respond to it, but you turn it off and then go put the fire out or figure out if somebody's trying to jack your car. Similarly, your anger, it lets you know we are being trespassed upon, and there's a potential danger here. And that danger could take the form of a physical threat, a financial threat, an existential threat, an emotional threat, but it's just an alarm.
Yes.
And if you have the relationship with your anger that you appreciate it, but you don't let it run the show, it can actually be kind of something that fuels positive action. So my anger sometimes gets funneled into an article, or it gets funneled into a podcast, or it gets funneled into political activism. Um, and those to me are really positive outcomes. And sometimes it is me getting the juice up to actually assert a boundary with somebody that I love, and I've been allowing them to encroach on those boundaries. And if I get angry, I try to pay attention to the parts of myself that are saying, hey, we don't like what you're allowing to happen. You need to change something. And I'm like, so I kind of have a conversation with my anger and go, hey, thanks for letting me know. You're right. I was over here trying to be a people pleaser and keep the peace, go along to get along, and you're right. That's enough. I've done too much of that. So now I am going to be the grown up here and find a um, calm, um, clear, and hopefully compassionate way to assert that boundary.
That's lovely. That's my, yeah, my relationship with anger is quite similar. I don't get angry as often as it sounds like you did in the past.
Probably not as bad either.
But I think I can remember a time with my young son. He was about 8 or 9, and
Mhm.
I could feel like he was always holding something in.
Mm.
And for whatever reason, I'm not sure where he picked it up from, but he had this idea in his mind that anger was bad. And so after a few discussions, I was just, anger is good. Like,
Yeah.
it's a good thing to feel because then you know something's happening, and
Yeah.
you can take that and you can love what it's telling you, but as you said, not act on it. So you can use it to create boundaries, to create action, to do all sorts of things. Um, and yeah, so even from the opposite point of view, just letting people know that anger is okay. It's more than just, it's something we do. It's something we need because it does help us define when something's impinging on us, or if there's something in us that we need to look at inside and go, I don't
Yeah.
want to hold on to that anymore. It's also a place where we can sit and go, I can let go of that now. It's a
Yeah.
place where you can heal or you can create boundaries. It's really good. So
Mm.
awesome.
And how lucky your son is to have a dad that would give him that message. It's beautiful.
Oh, I think I'm lucky to have my kids rather than lucky to have me, but I'll take it.
I hear you.
All right. Now we're going to get a little bit more interesting in terms of intimacy and things like that,
Okay.
which is, so we'll just start with the simple one. Define intimacy.
Mm.
Um, how do you define it? And
My
how does it
capacity.
help your clients to have a a clear definition for themselves.
Okay. Intimacy to me is limited by my ability to connect with myself.
Yes.
So it really starts with self. How intimate am I with me? Because if I know me, which requires some quiet, like I need to be quiet and hear the various different voices inside me. And I'm IFS informed, so I work through the internal family systems format, which is like parts. We have sub personalities, and they have different personalities, literally different agendas, different ways of being. And so really getting to know those parts and love them up, accept them, bring them kind of into the fold so that they're not off here doing their own thing, but we're kind of working together as a team. That allows me to become more intimate with others. Because if I understand that I'm composed of subpersonalities, I will be able to see other people that way. I'll be able to understand that right now I'm talking to somebody who's coming from their parent part, but maybe the next moment I'm talking to somebody who's coming from their kind of professional part, and then maybe they've got their lover part, and maybe they've got the irresponsible, never do well part, and then they got the really buttoned up, I'm going to be a success part, and if you learn to listen to all the parts in another person, you start to get a fuller picture of who they are. And so if I look at myself, what prevents me from seeing the whole person? Oftentimes it's because I have a need for them to be one type of person. So I'm limiting them. I just
Mhm.
want them to co-parent with me, or I just want them to be my lover, or I just want them to fulfill this perfect role that I have in my head of a husband or a wife or a friend. Um, and so then I'm not willing to see that they have other parts. I'm not
Yes.
curious. And curiosity is really the doorway into intimacy. I got to get curious about myself, curious about other people. And it's a hard thing for traumatized people. And I work with a lot of traumatized people. So they're going to judge and criticize when their partner doesn't perform the way they want them to, whether that's romantically or financially or emotionally. Those tend to be like the three biggies, where people then start to see each other as caricatures of each other, and they only are seeing the one thing that's disappointed them. Um, so yeah, I would say know thyself and become curious about yourself and other people. That's 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 the definition of intimacy to me. It is I've been in the same relationship now for almost 15 years, and I still have this intense hunger to get to know my partner.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
Yeah,
really, really awesome.
yeah. So you can't ever get to know everything there is to know about yourself or another person.
No, no, I was going to say, even knowing yourself is an impossibility because you're constantly changing. Every moment,
Yeah.
you're a new version of you
Yeah.
at some level or another. So you're always learning something about you if you're willing to be curious and pay attention to it.
Yeah. Yeah. That came up today in therapy, actually, when I was being reminded that I'm not the same person I was when I got a divorce 20 years ago. And so in IFS, we'd call this updating our parts. So the part that believes I'm still that person needs to have its files updated. Um, and it literally can look like me going in and talking to that part and just saying, yeah, some of the judgments you have about me, they just don't apply anymore. Let me plead my case. Here's the things I've done since then. And then that part can relax a little bit and go, okay, maybe you're not the total fuck up I think you are.
Yep. Yep. I understand that one. Oh, thank you very much. Oh, that was an awesome answer. I took something out of that for sure because I hadn't looked at intimacy from quite that lens before. Similar, but not quite. And yeah, that
Ah,
hit me. So that was good. Thank you. Thank you very
okay.
much.
Yeah, thank you for asking. Great question.
Um, okay, next question. Now you're based in America,
Yeah.
and there's a few different cultures, but what do you think are the most damaging cultural narratives around sex?
Yeah.
And how the hell do you challenge them and still be respectful of the cultures? Like that would be a tricky place. I don't know if you have a lot of how much cultural diversity you have in your clients, but
Well, now that I'm a coach and I've been a coach for 20 years, not a lot. I have had some international clients, not so much in the last few years. It's been more in the United States and oftentimes on the Western coast. But when I was a high-end escort, which I was for about 17 years, I had clients from around the world
mhm,
and from different cultures and different socioeconomic backgrounds and different races and different countries. And sometimes there were language barriers um, and very different religions for sure. So, what I learned firsthand from that was sexual shame is pretty damn universal, which is really sad to me. But
yeah.
I didn't encounter a religion or a race or a country or a culture where, oh no, we don't have sexual shame. Now, I do think that they exist, but really, really rare places, like perhaps the Muswa in China, which is a matrifocal society. And it seems like when you go into cultures that are more matrifocal, and I'm intentionally not saying matriarchy because that would suggest a power over, matrifocal tends
Mhm,
to be more consensus based and more egalitarian and therefore more peaceful. And sex is more abundant and there's less of a scarcity. But we treat sex like a resource in most cultures, and particularly if they're patriarchal, which is the dominant model on this planet.
mhm,
Um, so you only have to look at our two nearest um, genetic cousins, which are the chimpanzees and the bonobos, to find a really, really overt example of what I'm referring to. So bonobos are matrifocal, meaning that the females um, bond together to have more power in some ways, if you want to look at it that way,
mhm,
than the males who are still, there's still sexual dimorphism. So we have to kind of back up and look at the biology too. So sexual dimorphism just means that male and female primates, humans, chimpanzees, and bonobos, the males tend to be bigger. Now, it's not as big a difference as like a male gorilla and a female gorilla. There's a huge, huge difference there. But it's still a difference, and there's these canine teeth that the bonobos and chimps have that can do a lot of damage. So in the bonobo culture, which is matrifocal, there is a tremendous amount of promiscuity. There is every kind of sex you can possibly imagine. There's homosexual behavior and even some acts of prostitution taking place. The younger females are often trying to trading sex for sugar cane. So there are very fascinating species, and our patriarchal scientists haven't enjoyed learning about them. Um, they've been offended. One of somebody I used to be in touch with who recently died. He died last year, but a fabulous primatologist by the name of Franz de Waal. I interviewed him for my show. We've had a few conversations via email about this. And when he first introduced this culture of bonobos to his scientific colleagues, some of them got up out of the room and stormed off and said, "Those, I don't know what's wrong with those monkeys. They're not monkeys, they're apes." But anyway, that was what was said.
Yes.
And it's just like people love to cling to the chimps. And I'm going to tell you why. Chimps are patriarchal. So chimps have domestic violence, they have rape, they have infanticide, they have murder. And Jane Goodall documented a chimpanzee war that went on for 4 years. It was a tribal warfare, and it was brutal and vicious, just anything you could possibly imagine. She was so horrified that her beloved chimps were capable of the same kind of violence that humans have shown themselves to be capable of, that she came back to the United States and founded something called Roots and Shoots, which is in the schools trying to teach the roots of peace to humans, to human children. Bonobos don't have that problem. There have been a few scientists, actually not scientists, a few journalists who've tried to disprove the peaceful bonobo. And I remember one guy went into the forest, into the Congo, to meet a bonobo, and a bonobo threw shit at him. And after I read his article, I was totally understood why. Um, and there have been some reports of bonobos biting off each other's fingers. But if you compare that to ripping somebody's heart out and eating their face off while they're still alive, it doesn't compare.
Yeah.
And there's no rape, there's no murder, there's no war, and they don't kill their babies. So the idea that we are destined to be the way that we are, I don't agree. We have probably more genetic similarity to the bonobo than we do the chimpanzee. It's kind of a toss up in some ways, but we could go either way. But we've chosen this one path, and it's really become the dominant one.
It's that age-old question of nature or nurture. Like, how much is purely cultural that have been passed down through
Yeah,
thousands of generations?
yeah, yeah,
How much is learnt behavior that we see and mimic? Because as children, we are nothing but sponges. We gather in every piece of information that's possibly available, and
yeah.
we mimic. We're amazing mimickers. So I'm not sure it would happen in my lifetime, but I think there's hope for humans
I think there
as a
is too.
collective.
I certainly hope so. You know, just to bring a full answer to your question about the cultural trance that I see us in around sex. It's because it's patriarchal, it's considered a limited resource. Because it's a limited resource, it's considered something we have to control. Because we have to control it, we oppress and we shame. And the chimpanzees do the same thing. When a female goes into heat, a male that's decided he wants to have children with her will beat her mercilessly and refuse to allow her to have sex with anybody else. And so she may still have an attraction to another male and risk her well-being to go be with, but it's in secret.
Yes.
So right there, you've got the roots of sexual shame and sexual
Yeah.
secrets. And so there we are. It's all right there. If we look at human cultures, which are more matrifocal, they're usually less violent, they're less oppressive towards the female, and they're more open to sexual variety and freedom.
Well, here's hoping that we can slowly learn, because that sounds a bit better.
Yeah, I think that existed at one time. If you look at the carvings on the temple walls in India, there's copulation all over the place, and that was supposed to be a sacred place. So um, if we go back before the advent of monotheism, there is more of a culture of sex being actually a doorway to the divine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then we get back to religion and control, but we don't need to go back there.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, okay. Next one on the list for you. Which one should I go with? We'll go with
Oh,
breaking through resistance. Okay, so when you're coaching,
yeah.
what is the most common type of resistance people experience when they're trying to embrace this more shame-free approach to sex and love?
Well, everybody's
How
got
do you
their own,
guide them through it?
huh?
And how do you guide them through it? Like, so yeah,
All right.
what are their main big resistances, and how do you help them through it?
Well, I get curious and compassionate. Those are my two go-tos. So I want to know what part I'm talking to. And I love people's parts. I I have some blocks to loving all my parts.
Mm,
Um, but oh, it's so easy for me to love other people's parts, even the ones that are really obnoxious and dysfunctional and destructive, because I get them. I get why they're the way they are, and I get what they're trying to do. And I just come in and ask them questions and get to know them better, and then express a tremendous amount of love towards them. And hey, I understand where you're coming from. I know what you're afraid of, and thanks so much for letting me know. And I relate to that. I've had feelings when I felt that way too. And the part will start to calm down. And when a part calms down, it stops blending with the person. So although we're comprised of all these parts, what happens is when they feel threatened, they will try to take over. So they dominate.
yeah.
And the whole objective with coaching the way I do it through using the IFS model is to help those parts feel safe, heard, valued, um, and to ask them to just give us a little room. Give us a little room so this person's higher self can start to come up and be known.
Yeah.
Because I tell my clients, you have your answers, I don't. What I'm here to do is help pull away the stuff that's overlaid, that's keeping you from connecting with this ancient wise part of yourself that already has answers and knows what to do. So that's my number one thing. And I do give people sometimes some concrete communication tools if it's a relationship dynamic. Um, I may encourage them to take up Kundalini yoga or meditation, which are ways of getting more embodied. I might ask them to just, play with, you probably have done this where you try to fill the energetic ball between your hands when you do this. And if they start to feel that, then I go, okay, so that's the electricity that's coming off of you. You are first and foremost energy. so, so start playing with that. And I have a meditation that I give people. Um, I call it a masturbation meditation. And I
Well,
ask them,
that sounds actually quite fun.
I'll share it with you. You take I always ask them, put a journal that you can write in next to your bed and set the timer for at least 20 minutes. And just put one hand, probably the non-dominant hand, on your heart, and the dominant hand should just cup your genitals. Just cup them.
Okay.
And then just want you to breathe. I want you to breathe long and deep and slow. And then gently start asking this one question of your genitals. What do you want me to know? What is it that you want me to know? And
Okay.
so I've had clients who were pretty resistant to it, like it's kind of a scary thing for them. Most of my clients, though, have really gone into it and then had some unexpected breakthroughs. One client remembered being sexually abused as a child. Actually, several clients. So I always warn them, you may get a memory, or your part might try to show you something that you have blocked. And I want you to write it down so we can, work with it in our next session. And I guess I trust that memories are not going to surface if they're not ready. And
Yes.
it's been my experience that, it's like they're ready. So now we're just going to breathe into it and let it reveal itself. Um, and then, of course, if there is trauma from child sexual assault or adult sexual assault, then, we work with that. And I have made a journey as an incest survivor and a rape survivor. So, and I'm a trained rape counselor, so I'm able to help them navigate that terrain. And if we uncover something particularly difficult that I think it goes beyond the scope of coaching, I usually will ask my clients to take one of two routes. One would be to start working with a licensed therapist, maybe one that does EMDR, or a licensed therapist that does IFS, because that's a model that I prefer. And I'm a coach, not a licensed therapist, and sometimes a licensed therapist can prescribe medication if you need to calm your system down, or diagnose other symptoms like manic depressive or borderline or things like that that I'm not qualified to go into. There are times that I will suggest a psychedelic shamanic journey. And I
Mhm.
I do not do those, but there are people in various different states in the United States where it's legal who do that. And I myself have benefited from both MDMA and LSD journeys. Not a lot of
Mhm.
them. I think three, three and 39 years of sobriety. Um, but it's a valuable tool um, for people who are trying to get past terror and self-hatred, and
Yes.
um, and develop more of a connection with um, a spiritual aspect to existence. An interesting aside here, not that you asked, but since I am talking about being clean and sober for 39 years, I just want to say one of the founders of Alcoholics Anonymous, Bill Wilson, um, did a lot of LSD after he got sober and actually wanted to make it a recommended part of Alcoholics Anonymous. And he got
Wow.
voted down on that one. But I will be forever grateful for the fact that he did do LSD and brought a different sensibility to 12-step recovery, because what happened before AA was called the Oxford Group, and they
Mhm.
made my Mormon grandmother and a Pentecostal grandmother look like lightweights.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's within reason, and Ram Dass did way more acid than I would ever want to do, but even he said at some point, once you get the message, hang up. So I am not.
Yes.
There's no part of me that ever suggests to make this a way of life. It's a tool. It's a tool, and in
I like the
moderation,
way
it
you
can be
put that.
helpful.
For me, that side of things comes
Mm.
down to intent. If
Yeah,
your intent is to heal yourself
yeah,
and you find the right people to help you through that,
yes, yes,
then you're going into it with the right emotional headspace. You're going into it
yeah,
on
Yeah.
a journey of curiosity to heal whatever part of you or many parts of you that might
Oh,
be
yeah.
not quite right, may have
Yes.
experienced trauma, may be repressed, may whatever it might be. But yeah, having that intent of healing,
And
I
that can,
think
yeah, absolutely.
it
Like
changes.
the first time that I did MDMA, I worked with a list of questions that my peer sponsor and I refined, and that also my shaman, the person who took me through the journey, for a year. I worked with the questions.
Oh wow.
So
So
because my sobriety is sacred to me. I didn't
mm,
want to do anything that would endanger that. So I met with several people in my 12-step recovery program who counseled me and shared their experiences with me. So I did a lot of research first, and a lot of the research was in here. Like, what are my
yeah,
motives? What are my intentions? And I'm here to say that when I hear people talk about, oh, it was so much fun, I'm kind of like, yeah, that doesn't sound like a journey. That sounds like getting high. Because
yeah,
for me, like the first time I did MDMA, it was just, one dose, and I was off and running for 3 days. Um,
whoa,
it was because I was diagnosed with complex post-traumatic stress disorder, which you only get from repeated exposure to trauma as a child. So usually PTSD is about an event, a traumatic event, like
yes,
you were raped or you were robbed or you survived a war. But if you are a child, that trauma becomes part of your development. So, um, yeah. And it was like at that point, I think it was 30 years. After 30 years of recovery, I'm like, there's only so far that therapy, and I've been through tons and tons of therapy, could actually take me. I need
yes.
help. I need help to get over this hump. And so those 3 days were a lot of crying.
That sounds
But
about right. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, there was no part of me that was like, can't wait to do that again.
Yeah, that sounds like a healing journey to me.
Yeah, it was.
Yes, it sounds nice on the tin, but yeah, sometimes it's not pleasant to go through, but on the other side, it's a game changer.
Very much so.
Yeah,
Very much so. Yeah. Really grateful, but it's work. It's work.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think, for most of the people listening, it's work that's well worth it. So yeah, if anybody's listening to this,
Yeah.
whatever format you're doing your journey in, even though it might suck for a while, it's worth it. Just
Yeah.
keep going.
Yeah. Freedom. Freedom on the other side.
Well, the freedom, it's freedom from ourselves at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, and also that legacy burden, the trauma that's, because they've actually shown that trauma travels through the DNA. So if you can
Yes.
imagine, I had DNA that's infused with the trauma of child sexual assault for generations
Hmm.
on both sides. So that was another part of my healing journey, is just like even, being released from the generational um, trauma that was in me regardless of
That's
what happened to me.
that's huge. I think it's amazing when people can, like, generational trauma is a hard thing to shift because it is literally in your DNA half the time.
Yeah.
So it often takes a lot of courage to be able to shift something that's not just a little
Oh,
bit.
yeah. Yeah.
I haven't got quite the
Epigenetics
right word,
says
but
it'll go out 7 generations. So
yeah, yeah, it's massive. It's massive. It takes a lot of courage. So
I am noticing that our images have frozen on the
frozen. Oh,
screen.
yours is frozen as well. Because
Yep.
yeah, my image of you has frozen.
Yep.
Mine's still going, but is yours? Can you see me moving?
I cannot see you moving. I can't see me moving, and I've got a thing going round and round and round and round. So I'm thinking there's a problem at my end. And
Yes.
yeah, how do I get out of this thing?
Um,
Um, Tell you what, I'm going to end this and then I'm gonna log back in and
okay,
see you there in maybe say 3 minutes.
cool.
Okay, all right,
So
bye.
do you want me to stay in this one or jump out?
Yeah, you can stay in it because it's not affecting your end.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay.
cool.
All right, I'll be back. I'm back.
Hello.
I don't know what is
Speaking
weird.
again.
I had to restart my computer, and when I came back, Zoom wanted to update itself. So, like, all
That
right.
sounds normal.
So here we are.
Here we are.
I'll just have a little editing to do.
Oh, that's right. You can chuck it my way. I can do some editing if you want. I'm not fussed.
And I just want to give you the heads up that I need to end
You
around
haven't got
5.
long.
Yeah.
Another 5 minutes.
Oh, no, no, no. We can go another half hour.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. I better start quizzing you faster then.
You better work on it.
Maybe I'll just have to quiz you again. Oh,
You
I'm
might
not even
have
halfway
to.
through my questions yet.
You'll become like a weekly guest. And by the way, I didn't tell you this, but this is going to go into my new section called Naked Conversations.
I love it.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, I've been having fun so far. So,
Oh, good. Me too.
con- considering I didn't exactly dress for the occasion, wasn't exactly expecting to be on YouTube anytime today, but it's okay.
Well, yeah, sorry. It's the shame-free zone, man.
It's roll through it.
Let's go.
What happens?
Go for
Let's
it.
do it. Is it recording?
Oh yeah,
Because I
it
didn't
never
see the
stopped.
notification.
I don't know
Oh,
what you were doing. I hope you weren't jerking off while I was down because
well, only in the corner. It's all right. Nobody will notice. It's fine. It's fine.
it's all captured. I got it now.
I was just calling myself off because I was too damn hot. But anyway, um, back onto it. So we just finished the resistance one. All right. So the next one on our list, trauma and connection. So this is going to be a big one because
Yeah,
trauma is just massive for almost everybody.
it is.
So, and especially considering your background, this makes so much sense.
Yep.
For people, for individuals carrying like deep sexual trauma or relational trauma, that sort of thing, what do you believe is the key to helping them reconnect with themselves and then with others?
Well, first and foremost, sometimes the connecting with others really has to wait. It just depends
Yes.
on where you are in your healing journey. So I absolutely have healed my sexual trauma, which is astounding. I was, abused by my dad since I was 6, and I was raped 3 times as an adult. And when I started my journey around sobriety and recovery, um, I was anorgasmic, which means you can't have orgasms. Now, I could masturbate to an orgasm, but I couldn't have an orgasm with another human being in any way, shape, or form.
Mhm.
So it was a long journey. And I started off with a book called The Sex Survivor, or The Survivor's Guide to Sex. Survivor's Guide to Sex by Stacey Haynes. It's been around for a long time and it's a classic. And she has other stuff out there now, and she's great. I've worked with her in coaching, as a matter of fact. So that is a workbook, and there were just all these exercises, like one step at a time to take. And meanwhile, I was in support groups for incest survivors. So I got to extirpate a lot of the shame. There's a lot of shame when you're sexually abused as a kid. Kids think it's their
Yeah.
fault. Kids think they did something to deserve it. And then the secrecy around it is very shaming. So just being able to share those stories, hear other people's stories, and start to feel like I'm a normal human being. And how do I reclaim my joy? How do I reclaim my orgasms? And that part was kind of left out by therapy. Therapy was all about you are a survivor and what you went through was traumatic, and it was just trauma, trauma, trauma. And we're going to heal the trauma so that you're not, cutting yourself or overeating or starving yourself or whatever it is your thing is. But never really takes you to the place of, oh, you're going to have a vibrant sex life with another human being. So I really just credit Stacey Haynes with taking it to, let's talk about consent. Let's talk about how we get to that place where we are fully empowered. And that is like the next crucial step. Once you have started healing what's inside here, and feel like you have some stability and some ground under your feet, and you're ready to start relating sexually to another human being, then you got to have good boundaries and assertion skills, and that's something that is not taught too often um, in sexual scenarios. You go to talk to a sexologist or a sex educator, and yeah, sure, they kind of give a little lip service to consent, but oftentimes it's just about pleasure, 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 pleasure. And if you're somebody who's been sexually abused, pleasure is not actually happening for you with other people. There's
Yes.
just a lot of fear. And then also, if you're a survivor of child sexual assault, the there tends to be, and but this would also apply to adult rape survivors, something called tonic immobility, which is a form of the freeze response. So, trauma response in human beings is like there's fight, flight, or freeze. And there's also fawn. People often leave that one out. Fawning is just, oh, you're so amazing, you're so wonderful. Almost all incest survivors had to do that, kind of, say nice things
Okay.
to daddy or uncle or the coach or whoever. Um, and there's also tonic immobility, and a good percentage of rape survivors as adult women suffer from this. There's a theory that tonic immobility is actually a survival mechanism to make sure that the vaginal tissues don't tear during rape. Um,
Hmm.
but what it does is cause you can't speak or move. So this is, imagine how crushing it is for a rape survivor to be asked, "Did you say no?
When you can't speak and you can't move.
Did you fight back?" And this came out during, Me Too, for a lot of survivors. God bless them. They had the courage to come out and say, "No, I was terrified." So I just went along with it because I felt like that was the only option available to me. And that is oftentimes what happens with rape, is trying to survive it. And there's a lot of terror, a lot of fear. There doesn't have to be a weapon, there doesn't have to be a threat of violence. It's just a matter of somebody manifesting enough entitlement that overrides any voice or option or choice that you have. So, anyway,
Hmm.
how do we get to the place where I have a voice? One of the things that really helped me was I took a women's self defense class. And towards the end of that month-long training, we did something called reversals. And we were reenacting our rapes. And the reversal was that we were going to put the rapist down. So in my case, the first time I was raped was in college. I was 19. And the guy got on top of me and said, "Don't worry, I won't put it there." And he pointed at my vagina like, lucky me, he's not going to rape me there. He's going to rape me in my mouth. And my father used to say, "Don't worry, I'm your dad. I could never hurt you." So don't worry is
Well,
like my kryptonite, or it was. And
mhm.
I experienced tonic immobility. I could not move or speak, and I did exactly what I was told. And when he was done treating me like a human toilet, he dismissed me because he was done with me. And I remember feeling so much rage, and yet I could not express it, couldn't say
It was just
anything. And,
trapped.
you know, in a court of law, would that constitute rape? It should. And I think we have started to develop some sense of what consent is supposed to look like, but it can get a little confusing for people. And I want to recommend Betty Martin's Will of Consent. That's become quite popular, and I'm really proud of her. She made quite a splash with that. And it's in book form. There's trainings online. Will of Consent, and you can start to understand what it means to have full consent for yourself, because a lot of us are allowing our consent to be violated. And
Yes.
and one of the things I love about the consent trainings that come out of um, sex worker communities and queer communities and poly communities is that there also have associations with the community of BDSM. So it is, we're not saying you can't tie each other up and whip each other if that's what you're into. Um, but all of that requires consent. And knowing
Yes.
how you navigate that and still have a really, really hot life, a hot sex life, well, kinky people got that one down. Um, it's all
Yes.
negotiated. It's all consensual. You know what the limits are. You know what your safe words are, and it's super hot. Vanilla people sometimes get really lost trying to find their consent because they've grown up looking at these movies, and it's just like, I don't know, he throws her against the wall and he knows exactly when he's supposed to kiss and he never asks, and that whole monogamous heterosexual viewpoint has kind of colored a lot of people's um, sexual turn on. And there's room for that too, by the way. There is. I think that stuff is hot. And it needs to happen in the framework of consent. So, nah, it's not very hot on a first date. Um, it's it's hot in a long-term relationship, though. If you know your
Yes.
partner, you know what they like, you know what they don't like, you know where are their triggers. We got to know where our triggers are. And, I'd have to say most people have some kind of trauma. It might not be sexual trauma, but they got trauma. The couples
Mm.
I work with, they don't all have trauma in their past, and they're not all sexual assault survivors. Sometimes the trauma that they have is it's the relationship that's traumatized them.
Yeah.
Like when she says that or he says that, and that's what they mean. I know that's what they mean, and that's what they're trying to do to me. And so people recoil and they flinch. And if it happens in the sexual scenario between a couple, their body starts to kind of be trained to pull away or shut down. And one of the things I have found just horrifying is discovering how many women in long-term relationships are like enduring sex that they don't like or enjoy because they don't want to hurt his feelings. And I am speaking about, heterosexual relationships right now because that's the dynamic that I have seen in heterosexual
Mm.
relationships is she's trying to protect his feelings and not emasculate him, and he's like clueless and thinks she's having a good time. And
Yeah.
meanwhile, she's desensitizing all of her tissues and wondering why she's losing her turn on and can't orgasm anymore. So, helping people find boundaries and ways to talk about their limits and their boundaries in a way that's hot. Fortunately, I spent 17 years having boundaries with my clients in a way that was very seductive and hot. And I teach my coaching clients who are in long term committed relationships how to have that dynamic and that conversation in a way that's going to increase the intrigue and the turn on.
Yes.
And
I
be a
think
firm
a lot
no.
of
And be a
us,
firm no at the same time. Absolutely not. So
I have a feeling a lot of us will be in fear about if we try to put a boundary in, it's going to kill the mood. It's going to pull
mm,
away from
yeah.
the hotness. Whereas what you're saying is there are ways to
Yeah.
maintain, in fact, possibly even increase the hotness
Yes.
and keep your boundaries. So
Yes, and you
yeah.
gotta have you don't wanna look up the word boundaries and assertion skills online because it's all just so dry and not sexy. Um, But I developed something called the exquisite partnership formula, and it's a 5-step process for a very, very firm no that leads to,
Mhm.
you know, hopefully very, very sexy interaction. Um, and it's really just, it's about staying engaged, because when people start to say no to something, they're already apologizing, like, nah, that doesn't work for me, or I don't think so, or they're getting rude, like, "Pff, I don't think so. No, what gave you the idea I'd want to do that?" Um, but if what you say to somebody is, "Oh, well, thank you for letting me know you'd like to do that." Um, I understand a lot of people like that. What did I just do? I was gracious and grateful. So I'm appreciating them. And I also was normalizing whatever their thing is. I'm like going, oh, yeah, I've heard of that before. There's other people. In other words, you're not weird for wanting to do that. And people need that assurance. They just got vulnerable to tell you something that they want to do. And then
Yes.
very quickly, it's a no for me. Don't stay there. Don't stay with the no. Oh my God, that is going to kill the mood. Very next thing, though, there is something I've been dying to do with you.
Cool. Yep.
Okay, so, well, what is it? So playfulness and kindness, love, appreciation. I mean, seriously, your partner could have just taken it to the streets, right? They didn't have to tell you they wanted to try this thing with you. Um,
Yeah.
and look, it's that formula will work with a certain percentage of people, and then you're going to have a pouty person who's like, "You didn't like my idea, I don't like yours." All right, and so the final step is go to be the person who's bigger in that moment, realizing they got triggered, they're afraid, they're feeling hurt. Oh, you know what? Totally understand. We don't have to do my thing, but we love each other. And how about we get together later on this week? I'm thinking, like, Thursday when we both get home from work, and let's talk about all the things we'd like to do. Okay, so
Yep.
in other words, I'm being resilient. I'm giving the invitation in the face of a rejection, because I just gave a rejection. That's the least I can do. Um,
Yes.
and I'm continuing to be enthusiastic. I'm continuing to look in their eyes and assure them, I want you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's just, you've got to actually want them. If you don't, then you shouldn't be getting relationship coaching. You should be getting a divorce. Or 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 consider polyamory, in which case you could choose to continue to be married without having sex with each other, and you could free each other up
Yeah.
to have sex with people you do want to be with.
There's no limit to how we can all get together. We just have to, well, have to. It's probably ideal to be open and honest with everybody about it. Other than that, there's no real limits, is there? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
as in polyamory, whatever you choose, as long as you're open and honest and being respectful and caring and loving of whoever you're with and around,
As
doesn't
long
really matter.
as you're honest and it's consensual. So
Yes.
somebody just saying, "Oh, well, I cheated on you because I'm poly." That is just terrible.
Yeah.
Stop calling it poly when you're just promiscuous. And there's nothing wrong with promiscuity, but own it. Just
Yeah.
own it.
Exactly.
Now,
Exactly.
now, polyamory does not mean many fucks. It means many loves. So, are you being loving? If you are just fucking, great, but call it what it is.
Yeah. Be honest with yourself first and foremost, so you can be
Yeah.
honest with everyone else.
Yeah, that's hard for people to be honest with themselves.
It can get a little tricky from time to time.
Yeah.
Okay. I can't remember what's next.
Yeah.
Couple of wonderful lists.
Pin the thing, draw in the hat. What is in there?
Oh, which one? All right. It kind of bounces off the other one a little bit. So power and vulnerability.
Power and vulnerability.
Yeah.
Yes.
How do you help clients navigate the balance between having power and being open and vulnerable? Because a lot of
Yeah.
people get lost in that dynamic because it's quite it's on a knife's edge a lot of the time.
It's so that's a really complex topic. If we're talking about something like BDSM, it's predicated on power and dominance and submission, um, and that is negotiated depending on what people want. And there are a certain percentage of people who choose lifestyle. That also has to be negotiated, though. You can't just kidnap somebody and turn them into your slave. If we're talking about the power dynamics of your typical relationship that doesn't, okay, they might spank each other a little bit and, tie each other up with a silk scarf or something, but it's not kinky, really. Um, then we're usually talking about things around decision making, and that decision
Yes.
making is sometimes constrained by finances. And a lot of power accrues to economic power. So, who has the decision making around how the money gets spent? Um, and that really needs to be negotiated too. If there is an agreement that your money is yours and my money is mine, okay, that's the agreement. If two people want to agree that there's one person making the money and so then what's the arrangement? And people don't always talk about this. They just kind of slide into it like, okay, well, I'm paying the bills. And so that means that I'm making the decisions. And that was me in my last relationship when I was married. I was making more money than twice as much money as my husband. I bought a house on my own credit with my own down payment and was like, yeah, well, honey, you can pick the color of the house. So I really was demeaning um,
Mm.
and marginalized him. I gave him an allowance. These were not negotiated things. These were, he was complaining. And so I tried to keep him happy with as little as possible. I understand the temptation to want to have that kind of power, particularly if you've never had it before. And I hadn't, and I was enjoying it. But it's also really an empty exercise in relationship. So it's going to have a deleterious effect on intimacy. It didn't make our sex life bad in any way, but we were always really hot for each other. The thing that it troubled really was his sense of self, his self-esteem, and
Yes.
also mine. At some point, I became very confused, and as I learned more about what it was I was doing, I felt a lot of remorse for that. So I work with a lot of men who are primary breadwinners, and I can empathize with them and understand the temptation to kind of be the tyrant who's in charge. Um, but I also know how that hurts the person who's taking that kind of power to themselves. So
Yes.
it's important, I think, that we keep things consensual and negotiated and overt. Let's talk about it. What are we doing? Um, what are our financial arrangements with each other? How does it make us feel? Does one of us feel taken for granted? Like, oh, I'm just going to pay for everything. That happened to me at some point shortly before the
Yeah.
divorce, actually. I just started feeling like there was all these expectations on me and no gratitude or respect. And for the other person to feel kind of like you don't really want a partner, you just want Somebody who's here to do what? I don't know. I wanted him to keep the house going while I was busy making money. Um, take care of the kids while I'm busy making money. And
Yeah.
and that's really hurtful to the person who didn't get to choose that. If they got to choose it, great. So I guess it comes back to being able to talk about your agreements. And then also don't assume that what was happening 10 years ago is also happening now. Like we need to kind of update our
Yes.
files and reassess where are we and how do we feel about these things. Other things about power can be about sexual power. Oftentimes, this is reversed gender wise, where the man feels like she is kind of the gatekeeper of the sex, and that's how it started off. And I've watched men navigate that in various ways that were highly dysfunctional and borderline abusive, if not outright abusive. Well, I pay the bills, so now you owe me sex. You're my wife and it's obligatory. Um, you must have
Okay.
sex with me. And women who sometimes have the attitude, well, you married me and I used sex to get you here, and now I'm cutting you off because I never really enjoyed it anyway, but thanks for the free ride. These are really extreme examples that don't usually pertain to the vast majority of people. They're almost caricatures of how things can get. So, for the average couple, it'd be more about just looking at the dynamic and looking at your parts. Like, do you have a part that feels unappreciated, and then a part that knows you're appreciated? And do you have a part that feels like you're just expected to do certain things and that you have no choice in it? And you have another part that's happy to do those things, because we want to hear from all the parts, because we're very complex creatures. And oftentimes our feelings and our motivations are at cross purposes. So, you have to go back to get to understand yourself. I find it helpful sometimes to also look at what was the message around power in the home. And in my home, not surprisingly, my dad's very made it very clear. Once you start making the money around here, maybe somebody will care what you think.
Yeah.
So obviously, I carried that forward into my marriage. Well, you're not making the money around here, so who cares what you think? Um, Examining those kind of messages, um, or the idea that somehow or another you have to be in charge in order to what? Maintain your sense of masculinity, um, or to push against male control, trying to look at it from the other side. I don't see a lot of women trying to overtly control, but I do see passive aggressive things. Um,
Yeah.
Kind
I
of,
was going to touch on that.
yeah, yeah, kind of like, even I'm thinking about one thing that comes oftentimes. Well, if you really cared, you'd know you wouldn't have to ask. Um, so,
I
so
love
now
that
you're,
line. It's so good.
yeah. And, and another thing would be like, I need you to ask me how I'm feeling and show up for my feelings, and that kind of dictating the terms of the relationship, like um, also controlling housework. Um, so if the male gendered person does something in the way of housework, it's going to get critiqued. Not good enough. Um, should have done it this way instead of that way. And that can actually be sabotaging, because then why do it if you know I work all day for somebody who tells me what to do, then I come home and you tell me what to do. um
Yeah. Yeah. Relationships are meant to be, they're not easy, but there's something that
yeah,
makes both of you bigger and better versions of who you would otherwise be. I mean, that's, to me, that's the point of a relationship, is to
yeah,
explore yourself and the other person, and elevate yourselves together, not
Yeah,
have to
and
come home and be what?
it's really there's too many assumptions about like who's going to stay home of for the child and who's going to work uh, if we have children um and then what kind of power accrues to the fact that you gave birth to children. Does that mean you think you own them? I know when I got pregnant, I immediately felt like I have the power. This is my baby.
Yep.
And if I decide you're not a good enough dad, then I will go get one that is. And I was like, that is quite a power play. Fortunately,
Yeah.
I never said the words out loud, but I had, I thought, well, it's my mama bear. She's, he's got issues and I don't want him raising our child. I was kind of astounded that that came up, but it happens.
Yeah.
It,
Oh, we feel what we feel. It's just
yeah, yeah. Just
sometimes
like
it's
noticing that you are assuming you should have control.
yes.
And I think that's the thing. If power, what's the difference between power and control? I guess we could think of power as powerful muscles, economic power, powerful intellect, earning power. But when you go into control in a relationship, you take that power and you brandish it more like a weapon, right?
Yeah. So power is the capacity, but control is the action.
It's the abuse.
And yeah. And
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with having power.
Yeah.
It's how you choose to exercise it that's important.
Yeah. And if you're trying to control other people, places, and things, you will lose. And you'll lose the connection that all of us so deeply crave.
Yeah. But yeah. Yeah. I would say not just how you use it, but why you use it. It's getting back to I think we said something before. It's
Yeah.
what's your motivation in using that power? Why are you using it? What's
Totally.
the bigger picture? If you
Yeah.
can sit back and look at that. Oh, that's not easy though. Not in the
Well,
moments. Not in
well,
the moments. Not at all. Oh,
no.
awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. I'm gonna
Have you got time for another one, or are you nearly done?
one more. One
One
more.
more.
One more.
Okay. Let's see. I think we've all right. Self-worth and connection. We'll go here. So, in your experience, how does healing shame influence relationships with yourself and then with others?
Say it one more time.
Okay. So, in your experience, how does healing? We've got healing shame, but healing your worth. How does? Because a lot of people have very low valuations of themselves, low value, low worth. How does healing that impact the relationship with other people?
Oh, it's enormous. It's enormous. So, okay. So a lot of times we're like these little projection machines. Um, Somebody says or does something, and we immediately know, quote unquote, know what they meant and why they did that. And it pushes back into something that happened to us in our childhood or our young adulthood or just recently. And we are positive that we know what was going on with that person. And what we're not doing is what I would call, well, IFS calls a U turn. You go back towards self. What part of me is getting triggered and what story do I have attached to this? So if I can work with my parts, particularly what we call protector parts, these are the parts that get triggered, they get angry, they withdraw, they judge, they criticize, they try to fend off danger. If I can go in and find out how much of that is about now and how much of it is about the past, I can be more solidly connected to myself and where I'm at. And I can also soothe those parts by letting them know, yeah, you know what? This person is not doing something that we want. And I've been able to kind of deal with the part that was in the past that looked like it. So, we're taking the temperature down a little bit. It's just this one thing. So it's not quite as hot, not quite as overwhelming, because I'm now a grown up looking at a situation that's probably not identical to the one that got triggered, but it's still not okay. And do I want to continue to be connected to this person? If I do, the first thing I do is I calm down my parts, and then I ask about theirs. I'm going on the same assumption that they have multiple parts. So maybe uh, a snarky part struck out at me and really was trying to be mean. If I want to continue to be connected to this person, they probably don't just have a snarky, mean part. They probably have other parts that I really like. Um, so I've just found that really helpful. I do my work first, and
Yes.
then I'm able to see the other person more clearly and more compassionately, and I'm able to be a little more patient with them and extend a little goodwill. And and then I can exercise boundaries. Like, if you're going to continue to name call, I'm going to have to take a time out and remove myself from this conversation. That's simple. And then
Mhm.
actually do it, back it up. But I don't have to judge. I can be sad that they're not maybe working their own stuff. They're busy projecting onto me right now.
Yeah.
And it's not comfortable. And it's, we're all looking to be connected, so anything that separates us feels painful. But if I have worked with myself around my abandoned child parts, then I don't have to let them kick in when this other person abandons me, because I'm not a child anymore. I can be here for me.
Yeah. You've
So
healed yourself enough in that space that you can be
yeah,
there for yourself.
yeah. I think there might have been one more iteration of an answer to your question than that one. So if you'll repeat it one more time, I want to be as thorough as I can.
That's right. I might even slightly tweak it.
Go ahead.
If you're in a partnership with somebody who has a different level of self-worth to you, so let's say they have a lower self-worth, and you can generally feel these things.
Of course.
Is there any, do you have some recommendations for how people can navigate that? Because it can be quite a tricky space.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope I don't sound like a broken record, but I am in some ways, because I'm
Right.
going to um, listen for and look for the various different parts. So if I can talk to the part that's gotten triggered, um, my the talking is going to be asking questions.
Mm.
So exercising curiosity and compassion. So I, take myself into a place where I'm like, I can tell that you're really upset right now, and um, I'd love to hear more about that. Is there anything you want to say about that? And it's probably going to come out at you in a way that feels aggressive and maybe even abusive at first. But as long as it's words and you have got yourself, and you're not repeatedly signing up for verbal abuse, I most definitely don't recommend that, because then you're going to erode your self-esteem. Um, but going on the
Yeah.
premise that people act badly because they feel badly about themselves.
Mm.
And we have so many examples of that in the world today, of people who are acting badly and lack total self regard. So, as I feel better about me, I'm actually able to act in ways that are much more magnanimous and spacious. I've got more space.
Hmm.
Um, and and then I'm able to create connection. if I want it, and I've always got to be a choice here. So
Yeah.
let's say somebody is just so intimidated by me because they feel so bad about themselves that all I'm going to hear all the time is, sarcastic little passive aggressive digs. I deny I don't need that. Not
Definitely
unless you're
not.
paying me. If my coaching clients want to take it out on me, I could sit there and go, I hear you, but
Yeah.
it's only an hour. And usually it's online. So while I'm listening to the abusive thing, I could just squeeze this little ball here
Oh, I love
and try to get
it.
them out of the trauma, you know. In my relationship, I need to say, I'm not available for this. Just not available to be
Yeah.
talked to this way.
Yeah, I think understanding where that point of drawing that boundary
Yeah.
comes in, that I guess everybody has their own journey on that, but being
And
aware that if it goes too long,
it
it's almost
changes.
inevitable.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna add an addendum here, and this has to
Oh,
do with
oh,
external and internal boundaries. So, and I just wrote about this in the epilogue to my memoir. Um, what I noticed in my journey, my healing journey, was at first I needed to have pretty rigid external boundaries. So I'm not going to be in the same room with my dad, and I'm going to be only 3 days that I would spend visiting my mom because then she would do her thing and turn into a really toxic person. Um, these are traumatized people. And my dad he had guns and was mentally ill, so don't want to be around him.
yeah, yeah,
So those those external boundaries, some of them loosened up over time and some did not. And and what I noticed was just the degree of safety I was creating for myself. I'd have to assess the situation. Is this person dangerous and in what way? Um, and as I became more able to have an external boundary around physical abuse and then verbal abuse and then emotional abuse, like my standards get higher and higher about what I expect about the people around me.
yeah,
Then I had the luxury of, and also going inside and working with my internal boundaries. Like, what's an internal boundary? I don't take it on. That's their stuff. Can I really do that? Or is that just a little mantra that I say to myself? And really, what's going on is I'm like, oh, I can't believe that's what my mom always said. It must be true. As I free myself of the shame and of the legacy burdens and of the trauma, and I become a person who's actually having a very full, happy life, then somebody else's bad behavior, I get to kind of like go, I really enjoy this about them, or I like doing that with them. And I'm just going to choose to maybe hold them out here. So I have like friends that are here, friends that are here, and friends that are way out there. And it's because I'm paying attention to how adept they are in being respectful of other people and how easily triggered they are into those protector parts that can be abusive. I don't have to cancel people now, and say, oh, well, they did this thing to me, so they're out.
yeah,
I have a lot more freedom now to go, they are an alligator, and I love alligators, and they're a cougar, and I love cougars. And they're a puppy, and I love puppies. And they are a crow, and I love crows. And they're a songbird, and I love a songbird. Okay, so they become like my multidimensional experience of life on this planet with other humans. And if I think of them as animals, I don't ever forget that the crocodile or the cougar could kill me.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have some buffer between me and them and be careful about what um, proximity I have. But if what they are is somebody who does passive aggressive things and they can't actually physically hurt me, but emotionally they could hurt me. That
Hmm.
if I start to have internal boundaries where actually they can't hurt me anymore. Those are like they say something like that, I might actually think it's humorous. That's cute. I see what that part's trying to do to me, but it's not working, and that's fascinating. And now all of a sudden my world got bigger and it's got all these
Yeah,
different kinds of creatures in it, and I'm not afraid of them.
that's cool. I love it. That's a fantastic outlook on life. And yeah, being able to
Thanks.
change from needing external control to having internal control effectively. It's just such a transformation. It's
Yeah.
such an amazing experience that I hope everybody can go through at some point where
Yeah. And
they
Nigel, I'm finding it so helpful right now because so many people are traumatized and stressed and reactive right now, particularly in the United States where I live. And in my neighborhood, I've been watching people have meltdowns and fallouts with each other, and we always got along so great. And it's sad to see. And I myself was getting caught up in it, and I'm never talking to that neighbor again. And then I was like, you know what? No, that neighbor helped me in this situation. That neighbor was there for me in that situation, and we need each other. So, who's the alligator? Who's the cougar? And how, because I live in a forest, not with alligators, but I live in a forest with bears and cougars. And if I can live with them, surely I can live with these humans who also have some not so pleasant parts.
some parts that don't work well with you,
What?
some parts that don't work so well with yourself.
Ugh. Yeah, and it's a journey, isn't it, Nigel? It's
Oh,
not like I reached a destination and I'm all blissed out now. It's more like, oh no, okay, I'm getting triggered. I'm starting to feel a lot of judgment come up here. I don't like the way it feels. What can I do? I can go inside,
in,
work with me.
yeah, and enjoy the journey of change, even the shitty parts.
Yeah,
They're there to be enjoyed in a weird way.
grow, grow, grow.
BBB, I would say.
What?
Awesome. Yeah.
What?
Just be.
Oh,
Just be.
baby, baby.
You don't even have to focus on growing. If you are being, so if you can stay present in life and you just are who you are,
Mm,
you will naturally change anyway.
mm,
So just live. First and
mm,
foremost, live now, and then the rest will take care of itself. It's
mm.
my semi theory.
I I'm an Aries. I'm all about the growth. So, but there's room for all of it, Nigel.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
and I do need to go now.
Yes. Thank you
This
very,
is
very much.
Oh,
It's
this
been a
has
great
been
chat.
wonderful. This has been
Awesome.
wonderful. Yeah.
Well, maybe at another time I can borrow some more time from you or
Oh
share some
yeah.
more time with you even.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And yeah, I'll put you in my Naked Conversations podcast.
excellent. Perfect. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day, night, whatever it is over there.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'll chat to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Nigel.
Ciao. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.